Jeez, calm down. Jesus Christ. Okay. Hey guys, what's up? So today we're gonna figure out. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna figure out the quadratic formula. We're gonna derive it. So we have a quadratic right here: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So I've actually done this in a other video, but I took it down because I felt like the explanation wasn't that good. But yeah, so hopefully I do better this time. So we're gonna move the c to the other side. So we have ax squared plus bx equals negative c. We're gonna divide by a and multiply by a. So here we multiply and here we divide. X squared plus b over ax equals negative c. We didn't change anything, so c stays the same. Right here we're gonna look at something. We're gonna look at a m plus n squared. Okay, if we expand that, we get m squared plus 2mn plus n squared. Okay, that's the expanded version. We're going to try making the inside of this bracket as close to the expanded version as we can. So, a starter would be to multiply by 2, but since we're multiplying, we're also going to divide. Alright, and okay, let's look at this. M can be equal to x because there's an x squared and there's an x right there. So then n would have to be equal to what? Well, it's going to have to be equal to b over 2a. Right, we're multiplying 2 by this thing right here and by m. So if you have 2m, then this last part would have to be equal to n. Okay, cool. So now let's rewrite this using these. We're going to just plug these into this equation. So we're going to write it right here. X squared plus 2b over 2a x. And we're going to add n squared, which is just this squared, right? And if you distribute the power, you get b squared over 4 times a squared equals c, negative c, but we added a term right here, right? And that term is being multiplied by a, so we have to add that to this side too, because we added it to the left, therefore you got to add it to the right, right? So a multiplied by this is equal to b squared over 4a. So we had a squared, now we have a because, that's kind of just how math works. Okay, cool. So now this, as you can tell, is the expanded version, right? This is this version right here. Therefore, we can simplify it and turn it back into this version right here. So since we have our variables for m and n, and since the left side is equal to the right side, then we can just look at this and simplify it, right? So we have a over m, which is x, plus n, which is b over 2a squared equals, and the right side stays the exact same because we didn't change anything. Negative c plus b squared over 4a. Alright, cool. So now you may now know how to solve for x, right? You only have x on this side, therefore you can just use your square roots, and if you only came for this, then you can just exit the video and figure it out on your own. So, but we're gonna keep going, right? So we'll move a to the other side. X plus b over 2a squared equals negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. Cool, we'll take the square root of this, therefore we gotta take it on the right side too. Therefore x plus b over 2a, right, it's to the power of 2, the square root of something to the power of 2 is just equal to that thing, right, is equal to the square root plus or minus, square roots are always plus or minus, negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. And we solve for x, so we just subtract both sides by b over 2a. X therefore is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative c a plus b squared over 4a squared. Subtract b over 2a. Okay, there you go. This is legit the whole formula in its unsimplified or unclean version, okay? So if you came for that, you can just exit out, but right now we're gonna just simplify it so it looks like the version you guys see online. I don't know why I just made that sound. Okay, so we're gonna simplify it so it looks like the version you guys would see online, right? Should we do it on the next page? Yeah, I feel like we should. So we have, let me just write it. Okay, cool. B over 2a. All right, so we already have x. Now we're just gonna clean this up a little bit. So we'll look inside here. Negative c over a, we want to make a equal to 4a squared, therefore we just multiply by 4a. But since we multiply the bottom by 4a, you got to multiply the top. Therefore we just have plus or minus negative 4ac, right? We multiply negative c by this, over 4a squared plus b squared over 4a squared, subtract b over 2a. Okay, so now we can take away the plus sign because we don't take it away, but the denominators are the same. Therefore, we just have that and we just add. Okay, right? So it becomes this negative 4ac plus b squared over 4a squared. Subtract b over 2a. Okay, cool. So now what? Well, let's just move this to the left so we can take away this plus sign, right? We don't want to use unnecessary signs if we don't have to. B squared, subtract 4ac over 4a squared. Subtract b over 2a. Right, this is all equal to x. And we'll also just move this to the left, right? So we have x is equal to negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared, subtract 4ac over 4a squared. Now we'll distribute the square root, right? So this part is squared and so is the bottom. So we have x is equal to negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared, subtract 4ac all over the square root of 4a squared. We all know the square root of 4a squared is equal to the square root of 4 multiplied by the square root of a squared, which is equal to negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared, subtract 4ac, all over square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of a squared is a. Okay, these fractions have the same denominator, so we can combine them to make just one fraction. And we say that, and we can conclude that x, well, we can say therefore, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Therefore, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared, subtract 4ac, all over 2a. And there you go. That's the quadratic formula, and I hope you enjoyed this video.